What's good, family? So smash the like button and subscribe. Oh no, AJ superfan dons are gonna be sick after hearing this video, because listen, the YB is sick to death of what's going on in AJ's camp right now. You man know what I've been saying from the jump. Ever since Ruiz won, I told you, man, wagwan. Or what, in fact, what wasn't go on in. That's what I did tell you. I said, listen, we can't allow weakness to creep into the mindset. Weakness spreads, it lingers, literally like a cancer. And that's what we're seeing right now. Scariness is a cancer within AJ's camp. Now this sparring footage leaked. One of my dons deep inside the camp, deep inside Team AJ's camp, leaked it to me about a week ago now. I've sat on it, analysed it, and listen, what can I say? What do we know? Before we get cooking, let's work out what we do know. Yeah, I'm sick of talking about what we don't know. Let's talk about what we do know. What we do know is Anthony Joshua is preparing to fight a light heavyweight. Yeah, that's what he is, preparing to fight, a light heavyweight. No doubt. That's fact number one. AJ is preparing to fight a light heavyweight. Fact number two. AJ is preparing to fight a light heavyweight who has provably not been able to hurt anyone or put anyone down at heavyweight. That's the other fact. Derek Chisora has been put down by many men, in fact even cruiserweights. David Haye put him down. David Haye really isn't that much of a big puncher. Look what he couldn't do with Tony Belland, who is another blown up light heavyweight. In fact, that's a great example, in fact. Look what Tony Belland did to David Haye. David Haye smoked the boots off of Chisora. And look at what USYK did to Tony Belland, for example. Which just shows you how much power Haye don't have. Yeah? And Chisora was rock hard. A paid off Chisora was rock hard for USYK. And guess what? USYK couldn't make him go back even a little bit. Chisora came out of that fight and said, wow, I've never felt someone who can't punch as much as USYK. It's amazing how much he can't punch, is what Chisora said. Yeah? And never mind Chisora, the other fight we had against Chazley, USYK couldn't put Chazley down. Chazley had 2 days notice. Chazley is a top 400 fighter. A top 400 fighter on 2 days notice ran out of gas, and still USYK couldn't put him down. So like I said, fact number one, AJ is fighting a blown up light heavyweight. Fact number two, the blown up light heavyweight, can't punch. And it's the thing, USYK wasn't knocking people out at cruiserweight, apart from Belland. Top flight cruiserweights, USYK weren't doing nothing to them. He was going 50-50, life and death with them. He's not like my man's Okoli. Okoli don't play no games. USYK was playing all the games. Yeah? He ain't got the Mon Monster. He ain't got the gigs. Mon Monster, gonna get. He ain't got that one. That's what he ain't got. So like I said, number one, blown up light heavyweight. Number two, blown up light heavyweight with not a lick of power. Fact number three, Anthony Joshua is the greatest fighting specimen in the history of heavyweight boxing. As a base, that's what I'm saying. Yeah? And what that means is that genetically speaking, his base is the best you ain't gonna see a better base in the sport of boxing, a more athletic and a more malleable base. AJ is like a super being. Yeah? Africanulese, some may say. The base materials are all there. He's got the height, but he's not long and boring like Fury. He's long, but also I've said it many times. For me, he's like a hybrid between Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson. A true phenom. He can jab just as good as Lennox Lewis when he wants to. Not now, he's doing all that dancey crap, as we've seen, but when he wants to, he can jab just like as good as Lennox. And when he wants to, trained properly, he can open up just like Mike Tyson or as good as Mike Tyson. Again, not now, he ain't doing that. But what the point is, the talent's there. Is it being harnessed? Is it being finessed in the right direction? Absolutely not, and that's why we're seeing the deviation. That's why we don't see that's why we don't see the Lennox Lewis jab. That's why we don't see the Mike Tyson finesse opening up. That's not to do with his ability. His talent and ability is 10 out of 10. What's going wrong is what we saw in today's video. So there's the three main facts here. AJ's in camp for a light heavyweight. AJ's in camp for a light heavyweight who can't punch. Number 3, AJ's in camp with the best fighting specimen in boxing, heavyweight boxing history. Put all them things together, and you can understand why when I was sent this leaked video of the sparring, I was shocked to see what I was seeing. Let me explain to you the shock for some of you slowed on so you don't know why I'm shocked. Why I'm shocked is, I can't understand for the life of me why the greatest heavyweight boxing specimen in the last 100 years is preparing to fight a light heavyweight who can't punch, and he's dancing around, not holding his feet, not applying pressure, all scary looking, etc, etc. This is looking just like it was for any other fight, and people excused it for Ruiz. People would, I don't know what you want to call the Pulev fight, people excused it for Ruiz, but why be? Ruiz has quick hands, but why be? Ruiz is the best thing since sliced bread, they said. Okay, whatever, I'll give you that, even though I didn't, but I'll give you it anyway. Pulev came along. I told you, fear and weirdness, goofiness spreads like a cancer. People didn't want to listen. Next thing you know, AJ and Pulev going 5 rounds doing nothing. Oh, but YB, he got a knockout, so it don't matter. It don't matter how you get there. Okay, I'll give you that then. Now, we find ourselves in there with a light heavyweight who can't punch. And guess what? He's doing it even more. Like, what happened to fine-tuning here? What are AJ's team doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. What AJ's team are doing, they're protecting. I don't know what, in fact, I'm not even going to speculate. The facts are, AJ's team don't seem to know how to fine-tune. Don't seem to know how to prepare for their opponents. We're going in there with a light heavyweight who can't punch. What are we dancing around for? This should be as straightforward as it gets. And what frustrates me, and this is the thing, some of you goofy AJ fans tell me, oh, IB this. What you man need to do is start listening to what AJ says himself. What do we know? I covered it myself. After AJ beat Billy Ho Saunders, and I think after AJ beat someone else, after Alvarez beat Billy Ho Saunders, guess what? After Alvarez beat Callum Smith, guess what? AJ came out and said, when I fight Fury, I want to fight just like Alvarez fought. Cut the ring off and get to work. Like a metronome. Yeah? That's what he, out of the horse's mouth. So you should be able to understand my shock now, when AJ himself's even said that USYK's a similar version to Fury, which I agree, but what USYK is a smaller version of Fury. So in my mind, if AJ was saying he wants to fight just like Alvarez for when he fights Fury, I'm thinking, well, this is perfect preparation then. But if anything, if you were going to be aggressive and cut the ring off and whatever, get to work against Fury, then you should be rock hard. This should be the perfect, I even said it before, for me, Pulev was the perfect preparation for Fury. Yes, he's nothing like Fury, but as far as heavyweight goes, I wouldn't say Takam's good preparation for Fury, for example. Pulev's probably top 3 preparations for Fury. USYK, I'd put him as number 1, preparation for Fury. But the point is, guess what? AJ's in there with Pulev, and there's none of the Alvarez stuff. Now, as it happens, I believe Alvarez fought after AJ or something, so he was able... he had that kind of excuse that, oh, well, I didn't see how Alvarez performed. But to be honest, that's not the point. The point is, AJ himself said, I want to cut the ring off and get to work against Fury. Which, you know me, I'm the one who's been saying that. That's how you beat Fury decisively. Win every round and then stop him. Now, USYK is the perfect preparation for Fury. He's just essentially a smaller version. I think he's a bit more slick, to be fair. But still, smaller. Much less risk. Even though Fury can't punch, but even the pure size, two 10-pounds versus two 70-pounds will always be... They both can't really punch, but USYK has a bit better technique. But Fury is going to be the more dangerous fight, bottom line, if he dares get into the ring. But let's not get into that today. Today we're focusing on AJ and his technique and whatnot. You're going into the perfect preparation fight, and even if OYB, he doesn't want to overlook Fury, fine. Let's just focus on USYK then. Fuck Fury. Yeah, fuck him. Fine, let's focus on USYK. But still, I'm trying to give it wider context here, but it don't matter. The fact of the matter is, you wanted to get on top of Fury, just like Alvarez did. So now you're fighting a smaller version of Fury, essentially, and we see the training, because what we know is, yeah, this is the thing, again, some goofy, fruity AJ fans tell me things like, oh, YB, it's only training, you man don't understand high-level sport. That's your problem with you, man, you don't. You're couch dons. You haven't got a clue about how things actually translate. Because if you had spent any time in high-level sport, you'd know that how you train is 9 times out of 10 how you perform. And if you're in there and you're the man you can just about work out, look at the man he's sparring with. The man he's sparring with, I've seen AJ sparring partners before when he was sparring for the Ruiz camp. It was one black don, I think Tom something or something. Big thick legs, a little short don, fine. Clearly a big heavyweight. Guess what? The man AJ's in the ring with, dancing around in this footage, this leaked footage, is 180 pounds, soaking wet. The reason I bring that up is to say that, obviously, this video only came out this week, so it's obviously preparation for USYK, but this shows you, AJ's in there with a man, just like USYK, small man, and he's dancing around, which gives away, essentially shows us what he's trying to do. Go in there and dance around with USYK. Which I'm not surprised. Yes, I'm shocked to see it, given what AJ said about wanting to hunt Fury down and wanting to perform just like Alvarez. But I'm not shocked because I've seen the Pulev fight. I saw the Ruiz rematch. This is how it goes. Once you get in the habit of that scary attitude, it spreads and it lingers. And unfortunately, AJ's team and some of his fans, they think it's actually a good idea. I've got people telling me RYB is increasing his skill. For some reason, people have... Tyson Fury and Mayweather, to an extent, have confused running away with having skills. For now, I hate to break it to you, but in my opinion, low IQ boxing fans, not casuals, but low IQ boxing fans who think they know a bit about the sport, see someone constantly disengaging and they call it skill. Oh, he's skillful. He's not getting hit as much. Well, of course he's not getting hit as much. He didn't engage with Pulev for 5 rounds. What planet are you man on? If you run away from someone who isn't punching, who isn't aggressive, like Pulev, as AJ did for 5 rounds, in the middle rounds, AJ ran away from Pulev, a man who wasn't throwing punches and a man who isn't aggressive. So don't tell me, but YB's not getting hit. Well, of course you're not going to get hit. You're running away from one of the most defensive and non-aggressive fighters in history. Who has never had a high punch output. What are we handing medals? We handing out medals for that? Like I told you, man, a little while ago, us man used to laugh at that. That used to be Fury's thing. We'd laugh at it. Now all of a sudden, biased fans. Oh well, AJ YB, I like it. AJ's showing he's got a variety of skills. What? There's nothing, a variety of skills. What's a variety of skills got to do with getting in there, tucking your elbows in? Listen, this is what I don't understand. Why can't AJ improve his offensive skills? Let's not make out that AJ's like Alvarez, who can go in there, be on top of someone, and then be pretty cute. AJ's never had that kind of skill. Why? Because he's never developed it. AJ hasn't spent years and consecutive fights honing his offensive side. He fought Vlad where he fought Vlad where we had a bit of a learning session. Then he fought what's his name? Then he fought Joseph Parker, which arguably is probably one of the best. I'd say AJ versus Parker is probably one of the closest examples to an Alvarez type performance. What was missing was the inside, but that was the referee kept getting in the way. But essentially, looking at how methodical AJ was in that Parker fight, he came straight forward. He was driving his jab aggressively. Arguably, AJ's jab was even better than Alvarez's. Alvarez don't really use his jab. Why? Because he doesn't have the height. Like I told you, man, AJ's a supreme hybrid between Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis. He has the better base than Alvarez, in my opinion, but he's not executing with it, unfortunately. Alvarez looks a lot better now because he's executing with his goods. Alvarez is performing at 90% of his capability, 80% of his capability. AJ's down at 10%. Not using any of it. But when you look at the Parker fight, contrast it. In the Parker fight, AJ's dominating the centre of the ring. He's dominating the pace. Parker's the one who was scary on the outside, running for his life. How it should be when you're in there with Africanulese. But now the tables have turned. AJ's in there with Ruiz. He's the one running around. He's the one who's scary looking. AJ versus Pulev. AJ's the one running around. Who's scary looking. And now we've got AJ versus USYK. A blown up light heavyweight. And what are we seeing in training? AJ running around, dancing around, bouncing his toe. For what? Show me where you've seen Alvarez in there with Billy Ho or whoever else. Just bouncing around and running around the place. Show me it. Why? Because Alvarez knows these men ain't good enough to make me bounce around on my toes. Even when Alvarez went in there with Golovkin in the rematch, guess what? What did Alvarez do? Alvarez turned Mr. Big Money Show into the dancer. And that's what greatness is. That's what Hall of Fame is. Hall of Fame is turning the big bullies. For years, Golovkin made people dance around the place. Very nice, big drama show, I like. For years he did that. But that second Alvarez fight, he was the one boxing. And all of a sudden, big drama show, yeah, all of a sudden, Triple G fans were telling me, oh no, he outboxed him, and oh no, he wanted to show his jab. Listen, let me tell you something right now. The minute fans start saying, oh no, he wanted to show something different, stop lying to yourself, be serious. Be real with yourself. Your man's got turned scary. Simple as that. Don't tell me. I mean, Golovkin fans, you man was, and I was. We was all celebrating Golovkin knocking David Lemieux out with a jab. So don't tell me, oh no, YB, he wanted to show his, but no, he didn't want to show his boxing skills. He got backed up. That's what it was. No one with a resume of Golovkin all of a sudden wants to completely change it up and just become a boxer because he wants to. No. A man who runs through people only stops running through people when they feel they're in the presence of an alpha. That's how it goes. It's the bottom line. I'm sorry. That's how the jungle works. Oh well, YB. Think about it. Think about it in the jungle. Oh no, YB. Some next lion was happy to have all of his cubs eaten. That's essentially what you're saying. Alvarez went in there and ate all of Triple G's cubs. Oh no, YB, he was changing it up. He wanted to get, you know what I'm saying? No, it's not, of course he didn't. No one who's got that kind of reputation all of a sudden wants to change it up. Coincidentally, in a fight where Alvarez, for the first 7 rounds, wasn't going backwards. He stuck it on him. He turned Triple G into the dancer, into the boxer. And that's what greatness is. And the worst thing is about this whole AJ situation is Alvarez did that against someone equally great. Golovkin will be an equal Hall of Famer. So Alvarez is turning out Hall of Famers. AJ, you've got a better base than Alvarez and worse competition. There ain't no one in the heavyweight division like Golovkin, pound for pound. Not even close. But despite Alvarez having tougher competition, Alvarez had to go in there with someone a bit bigger than him and someone who was his equal in terms of power and whatnot and durability. There ain't no one in the heavyweight division today. Least of all, USYK, who you can sit there and say, yeah, he has the equal attributes of AJ. No one does in the division today. Least of all, USYK. But yet, Alvarez goes in there and, on principle, dominates Golovkin. I'm not saying he knocked him out, but the fact of the matter, he dominated the first half of that fight. Dominated it. On principle. Back Golovkin up. Turn up. We've never seen Golovkin going back. Show me a fight you've seen Golovkin going back. So that really is the start and end of the discussion here. I don't hear no more about it. Why that's relevant is that why can Alvarez double down on himself like that against super tough competition, but AJ, who in my opinion, and I think statistically has a better base than Alvarez, AJ can't back himself to walk through USYK. What? Canelo backs himself to stick it on and walk through Golovkin, but AJ can't back on himself to walk through Ruiz. AJ can't back on himself to walk through Pulev. AJ can't back on himself to walk through USYK. Like I told you, it's a cancer. Once that gets in your mindset, it spreads. And before you know it, you're running away from a light heavyweight. That's what it is. That's what the footage shows. Oh, YB, I don't want to hear it. The sparring shows AJ's in there bouncing around. Why would you need to do that for against Pulev? Show me where Canelo Alvarez is in there with Billy Ho Saunders bouncing around. That's essentially the equivalent. We know Fury and Billy Ho have a similar style. We know Billy Ho and USYK have a similar style, that boxy style. Show me where you saw Canelo Alvarez in there bouncing around and being all goofy. You just don't see it. Why? Because he knew it was coming in. He was rock hard for Billy Ho. He couldn't wait to be hanging at the back of him. He couldn't wait to be riding the hind legs off him. And that's as simple as that. Why can't AJ have that? And what frustrates me is because, like I've explained at the start of this video, AJ himself verbalised this. So please, you goofy AJ fans, please don't at me about how all this other stuff. Out of his own mouth, he said it, not me. Even I had been saying it, but he said it. I want to perform like Alvarez, and it's clear to see why. Because someone as talented and with the base AJ has, I believe AJ's would be better. Trained the right way, of course. AJ will look better than Alvarez. Because Alvarez, in my opinion, one of his main big flaw is he doesn't put the volume together. He puts one or two and then takes half an hour to reset. I think AJ's got a better gas tank than Alvarez. Now he has. Now he's come down in weight and now he's getting his conditioning right. I think he's got a better gas tank than Alvarez. He can go 12 rounds of activity. And he has better volume. He can put 5 or 6 together. Now, I wouldn't recommend it, but I think AJ should apply the Canelo Alvarez tactic with more pace behind it. I think Alvarez is a bit slow. AJ, apply the Canelo Alvarez tactic with more pace and more combinations. Put 3 together. I don't think you don't need to be putting 5 or 6 together, but put 3s and 4s together. And that is the perfect fighting machine. 3 or 4 put together shots. Not what we saw against Pulev, putting 7 together and they're all just going and hitting nothing. What Alvarez does well, yes, he only throws 1 or 2, but when he throws 1 or 2, they're digs. So even that, I'd take that. I'd take the Alvarez. Never mind 3 or 4. Scrap that for now. Let's focus on 1 or 2. Let's just get that. Because that, no one in the heavyweight division today can take an AJ cutting the ring off, driving forward with a jab, which is, again, something added AJ would be able to do over Alvarez. You don't see Alvarez stepping in double jabbing or really dominating with a jab because he doesn't have the height. But again, like I said, AJ has that. There's no reason he's going in there with USYK, smaller man. AJ should be just like he did with Parker, driving forward with a jab and then getting busy on the inside. Elbows in, chin down, watching what's coming, drive him to the ropes, and then put 2 big ones in, 3 big ones in. Finessed, not just swinging big uppercuts and hitting nothing. Thinking about your work, dissecting him offensively. Oh, but YB, he get hit. Number 1, that's the sport you're in, and number 2, not if you're training properly. Not if you're spending a lot of time in the pocket doing what I'm talking about. Naturally, your reflexes, your defense, your parrying, your guard. So don't get me wrong. If AJ goes in there like Ruiz won, or if AJ goes in there with his old traditional defense that's all leaky, his elbows are in the air and his chin's in the air, then yeah, of course you can't do. Of course you're going to get exposed, or you're going to be. I'm not saying what I'm saying is foolproof, but there's a way of doing things properly. Elbows in, chin down as a start. You work from that base. Religiously, you have to do it. Again, much like Alvarez. How many times really do we see Alvarez get caught super clean? Not very rarely. And do you think that's a coincidence? Like I said, Alvarez is going in there with competition better than AJ is. So don't tell me that. You can't give me that. You can't tell me, oh, but he get caught. Number one, that's a sport. You're always going to get caught at some point. But there's a way of doing things. You see, Alvarez, because he spent a lot of time working on his craft, making his craft his own. He's not. AJ spent half of his career doing one thing, and now he's switching doing another thing. Of course, you're going to be average at everything then. But Alvarez, he spent his whole career on a set model, grinding, perfecting. And now, you see Alvarez in there, he can drop his lead hand and give it the kind of shoulder roll and roll with his shots. And when someone puts it on him, he can roll with his shots with his hands down and slick it up. But guess what? He weren't doing that from the jump, was he? No, because it takes years of consistency, and he had to take the Mayweather loss. And that's the thing, much like AJ would have had to take the Ruiz loss. If AJ's team knew what they were doing, the Ruiz loss would have been great, because what it would have done, it would have showed the holes. I've already exposed half of them. You saw the video I put out, exposing AJ's defensive holes. That loss was needed. Well, with your current team, who are crap. But unfortunately, your team, rather than saying, yep, alright, we've lost, that's good for us, just like Alvarez lost, let's now work on why we lost. Instead, they lost and they thought, oh, let's drop our bows. And just AJ's good for nothing. AJ's completely chinless. AJ can't fight no more. AJ was no good. AJ was never no good at doing this. Yeah, let's run away. Let's become Tyson Fury 2.0. Is what's happened. It's shocking. It's a massive travesty. I don't know how British. There should be a boxing authority that steps in. Rob McCrappen needs to go to jail for 12 months, in my opinion. What he's. And I'm not gonna put it all on Rob McCrappen, because at the end of the day, AJ's the big man. He needs to start taking responsibility. But what I find suspect is the fact that he said, I want to look like Alvarez. And now I'm sitting there thinking, why are we seeing this for? Why am I seeing Africanulese acting all fruity against some cruiserweight? I can't understand it. I know how we got here, but I can't understand it. I can't understand it in reality. The steps to getting here it's inevitable. I knew it was coming. I knew AJ would say he wants to look like Alvarez and then fight like he did against Pulev, because that's what he's going to do. That's what his team is set up for. Why is that the case? Why is AJ saying one thing and then doing another? For sure, the trainer influence ain't helping. AJ's trainers never believed in him, ever. He was good whilst he was just balling people over, but you're never going to just ball everyone over every time. It was naive to think that. So now AJ's lost. I find it super suspect that they... What did they think? You were just going to ball everyone over? With basic skills? Whose idea was that? Rob McCrappen's, obviously. I mean, look at Carl Froch. Rob McCrappen was with Carl Froch for 15 years. Carl Froch looked exactly like, or similar to AJ against Ruiz. Just sloppy. Using his face as a number one defensive tool. Shocking. So listen, I'm not gonna keep going on, but I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that we're seeing the best base in heavyweight division history. Because people say, oh, why be Fury's the best base? Fury can't punch for a number one. Fury can't punch. Fury ain't got no chin. Fury ain't got no power. And I believe AJ's a better boxer than Fury, truth be known. I've never seen Fury put a boxing display on like AJ did against Ruiz too. Even Chisora 2, Fury was getting clocked. AJ literally boxed Ruiz's head clean off for him. Yeah, I believe AJ is a better boxer than Fury. In the 2 years he's spent being fruity, is already better than Fury now, in my opinion. That said, I've seen enough now. That's great. Was that a tool AJ should have added potentially? It's not a bad tool to have. Should he have spent 2 years working on it? I don't think so. Having a tool, being able, and this is the thing, this skill of disengaging and dancing, That skill takes a few months to learn at the most. It's really not rocket science. The way people are treating it, oh, YB, AJ's, oh, it's great, I love seeing these new skills. What new skills are you talking about? How is stepping in with a jab, disengaging, circling round half of the ring, how is that new skills? That's like literally one of the first things you learn. Step in, disengage. That's not skillful. Skillful is step in, stay cute on the inside, Josh Taylor style, not get hit on the inside, and counter. And then step out every now and then. Stepping in and out, that's what you call picking points. Nicking it. Oh, look, he scored one more jab this round. That's what that is. That's nicking rounds. Which is what AJ was doing against Pulev, nicking rounds. Nothing dominant in there. Was he ever at the risk of losing a round? No, but it's not dominate. He wasn't dominating the rounds. Compare it to the Parker fight. The Parker fight, AJ was dominating the rounds. No. There's no two ways about it. Dominating the center of the ring, which is key in my opinion. Dominating. If when you're in the center of the ring, you're in control. These days, as you saw on the sparring footage today, AJ he's lost that dominance, and it all feeds back to the Ruiz 1 fight. He's lost that ring generalship. Now his feet make me feel nervous. His feet are all he's always on the move now. Always on the move. You can see it. Always dancing, always pivoting, always I just don't know what we're doing here. I don't know where you're going with this, is my point. Because if you think you're going to beat Fury decisively like this, you're delusional. This will be a 50-50 fight. A battle of the jabs. 50-50 fight it will be, given Fury's attributes, given he's longer and taller. It's going to be hard work trying to win that kind of fight. What won't be hard work if you come in and beat Fury what you're better at. You are better at putting combinations together. You put more nasty combinations, technically speaking. He slaps. You dig. You got a better chin, which means you can only exploit your better chin when you're in the pocket. It's no good having all these attributes, power, combinations, offensive as in power, like power punch technique, chin. It's no good having all these. For me, yeah, if I was preparing a fighter, every fight I'd look at the attributes essentially and say, okay, where are we better than our opponent? A, B, C, D. Okay, so we've clearly marked out these are our best attributes over our opponent. So we need to kind of direct this fight into these areas where we can differentiate ourselves and be the best over our opponent. For example, conversely, yeah, I'd say Fury and AJ's jabs as such are similar. So really, if Fury and AJ's feet are similar and Fury's and AJ's jabs are similar, do we really want to spend the whole night on the outside dancing? No, because it's pretty equal there, especially when you consider Fury's taller and longer. Based on that, I'd say I'd probably give the outside game to Fury. On the fact that he's longer, on the fact that he's a bit thinner, so he may be a bit quicker. On the fact that he's had much more time doing that style of boxing as well. His legs are skinnier and stuff, so he may have a bit more, a bit more nimbleness and whatnot. So if you work out the attributes on the outside and the kind of mid-range game, that to me looks about 50-50. So as a trainer, preparing for a fight, it's all similar. It all feeds back to USYK as well. As a trainer, looking at USYK or Fury, do we really want to be spending the whole night on the outside? At mid to long range? No, that makes it a close fight. Our edge isn't there. Gamblers talk about edge. Your edge ain't there. Your edge is using your attribute, and that's the thing. The number one, you might know, the number one trainer in the UK is Shane McGuigan. The number two trainer in the UK is the YB. All you goofy, weird AJ fans who think this is really cool what he's doing, Go and check out the number one trainer's interview. Guess what? I'm going to do a video on it, but he says exactly what in the last week or so. I think it's Boxing Social. Either way, Shane McGuigan says exactly what the YB's been saying. On the outside, at mid-range, it's 50-50. AJ hasn't got any edge there. There's nothing magical you can really... A jab is a jab. There's nothing really magical you can do with that on the way AJ's applying it. Because the thing is, AJ's not even applying his jab now like he was against Parker. Where we saw how dominant AJ was in the Parker fight, and that was with just a jab. Yeah? But it was a certain type of jab. It was doubled up. It was pressurized. He was stepping. He was committing with it. Looking for trouble. That's what I call a looking for trouble jab. When you're stepping in and you're there. And you're like, now what? You're backing people up to the ropes. That's a different type of jab to what we see now. When you watch the Pulev fight. In fact, I can't think of one time I've seen AJ step in with it. Every time he was kind of step duck jab, step out. That Floyd Mayweather jab, that don't want no trouble jab. Duck under and jab to the body and step out. It's a defensive jab. It's not a dominant jab. So even that, we can't even say where YB. If he fought Fury, if he fought USYK, at least we know he's going to be dominating with a jab, even if he's not following up. That's not the case. He's point scoring, nicking him, and we know that USYK is slippery like that. That's USYK's game. Put it this way, am I confident of AJ beating USYK at mid to long range? No, I'm not. This for me makes it pretty much a 50-50 fight. Am I confident AJ will win? Will I bet on AJ winning? Yes, but I told you, man, a little while ago. This AJ versus Fury and AJ versus USYK, I would bet on a KO. I'd be all in on a KO if he was fighting a certain way. Now, at best I can bet on is a win. That's all I can do. Don't get me wrong, I will bet on the win, but that's all I can do. I can't bet on the stoppage. I just can't do it. When you're going 10 rounds or 11 rounds at Pulev, how can I possibly bet again? How can I bet on you stopping USYK or Fury? It's not possible. Performing like you're performing right now. It's a shame, because there was a time that it was just assert that AJ was going to get a stoppage. And that's another thing. Let me quash another myth. People tell me, but YB, the competition's getting better. No, it's not. Competition's getting worse, in my opinion. Dillian White, AJ chomped through him. Vlad, AJ essentially chomped through him. Again, in fact, Vlad is another perfect example of what I'm talking about when I talk about edge. When I talk about having a battle of the jabs. AJ versus Klitschko, watch the first 4 rounds. AJ's at mid-range, having a jab battle. It's 50-50, no edge. Because at this kind of level, when you're talking about the Furies and even Wilder to an extent, I know he doesn't really pump it, but still, when you get to this kind of level, everyone's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", and you're on your high-level fighters, a jab really is a jab. It's not super creative. When you're throwing one at a time, who can't do that? If that makes sense. It's pretty difficult to differentiate yourself when everyone's throwing one at a time. You got 2 long men, 2 big men throwing a jab. Well, that is what it is. And that's how the fight looked. The first 4 rounds, it was 50-50. I don't know what happened, but going into that 5th round, AJ out of nowhere started sticking it on him. And 2-2s, the minute AJ applied himself in the way where he had edge, what happened? Vlad went straight down. Which is literally a perfect example. It's a perfect... Good trainers would see that and say, yeah, we know our edge is. And I could have told you that before the fight. Because Vlad can't fight on the inside. At all. Now, to be fair to USYK can. To an extent, fight on the inside. USYK is more gritty. I've seen USYK get up all inside Joe Joyce on the inside. So I know the Vlad fight and the Fury fight. Actually, Vlad and the Fury fight will be easier on the inside. I don't know, actually. Fury is bigger. So they're probably similar, to be fair. I do think USYK is more cute on the inside than Fury. But essentially, because of the size, it's probably about the same. Which, again, makes it a great preparation for the Fury fight. But that said, AJ's edge on the inside is still his his most profitable place to be against USYK and against Fury. Especially when, let's not forget, AJ wants to be the greatest ever, or assume he does. And I believe he can be that. But will AJ go down as the best ever, going 12 rounds with Fury? Going 12 rounds with USYK? No, he won't. I'll tell you that right now. Impossible. Because we've seen people in history, throughout history, do better than that. We've seen the greats beat their peers in devastating fashion. And AJ's actually lucky, relatively, that he doesn't have a whole load of top tier athletes around him. The division's super weak, honestly, and that's what makes me even more frustrated. You've got the best athlete in AJ, and you've got one of the worst fields. But because of AJ's attitude and training, it's leveling everything out, isn't it? It's making these fights close. It's making these fights debatable. Because AJ trained the right way, it just wouldn't be a discussion. It would be, no one would go more than 6 rounds, 7 rounds in my opinion. No one would. Whereas now, we're looking at decision wins. Which, there's no way you're going to go down as the greatest of all time, fighting the way you're fighting right now. 10 rounds of Pulev ain't the greatest of all time. When Vlad, who isn't aggressive at all, got him out of there in 4 rounds. And that was a prime Pulev as well. Not an old one. Who's been inactive for years. Pulev was old and inactive as you like. And it took you 11 rounds. And you barely got him out of there as well. He jumped straight back up. So, it's who you want to be. If you want to be the man who's scary, then keep plugging ahead, because you're looking scary right now. That's the truth. And I'm telling you this as a brother as such. All your people around you will gas you up. Oh yeah. I'll never lie to you. You are scary looking right now. Yeah, that's what it is. Truth. You're boxing scary. You're not boxing with that attitude of invincibility. Because invincibility is just a mindset. And what gets me the most is people like Dillian Whyte. Yeah, Dillian Whyte. I have to rate him because he hasn't been blessed with the attributes you have. But yet, his mindset, I'm not being funny, Dillian Whyte's one of the most vulnerable people in the sport. That's what the facts say. He was in there with Povetkin. And Povetkin was old and knackered, and he knocked him spark out of nowhere. Dillian Whyte was dominating the fight. And still, he got clipped out of nowhere. Which shows you how vulnerable he is. But even as vulnerable as he is, with the lack of attributes he has, he still goes in there like he's Superman, kind of thing. Now no one ain't never going to catch you like that with one shot and you just spark out. Never going to happen. We've seen you hanging and then get caught and still your eyes are all straight and you're fine to get up. Even on your worst day, you're never getting caught with one shot and being all the way out. But still, you know you have that safety. You have that ability. You know no one ain't never going to catch me once. It's never going to be one shot. Which, when you have that kind of certainty, unlike Fury don't have that. Fury don't know. Fury and Dillian Whyte, 1 minute they're 1 minute there, 1 minute they're not. They just don't know how it's going to go. But to be fair to Dillian, he goes in there and he acts how you should be acting. You should feel more superior because of what you know, because of how you performed. You know you can rely on, you know you got that in the bank. Which, to be fair, is what a lot of the great fighters did. A lot of the great fighters knew, you know what, worst comes to worst, I know I've got my chin. Now, of course, the greatest ones also work their defense. Kyle Fox just went in there and relied all on his chin. Rob McCrappen, all over that is. But you shouldn't be fighting like you're fighting. You're fighting like you've got a chin that's just can never be hit once. That's how AJ fights now. Like, he knows he cannot afford to be hit even once, which we haven't seen any evidence of that. I've seen Fury on his back, murmuring with his eyes rolled in his head. I've seen Dillian Whyte exactly the same. If them two men went scary, I'd get it. And that's probably why that's why Fury don't want to fight. Because he knows, is it going to be today I get caught again, and this time I don't make it? He don't know that, and that's why he's struggling. He has to deal with that uncertainty. Is it going to be today Wilder catches me once, and that's it, game over? He don't know. You don't have that. You know you can be knackered, get hit with a massive lad right hand, and it bounce off, and you're sitting down, and you're getting up. No problem. Do you know you can be neurologically impaired going into the Ruiz fight, and still never once did Ruiz hit you once and your eyes roll in your head? In fact, never once did Ruiz hit you 5 times. Ruiz hit you about 5 times clean. Multiple times you got put down. Never once was you neurologically compromised like that. Every time it was kind of just a flop to the floor and get up. These other men are a lot more vulnerable, but I have to give credit to their attitude, because right now your psychology ain't it. Right now, there's other men with a lot less ability and attributes that are getting it in, and you need to seriously look at your mental state, because this ain't it. The mental state ain't it. The attitude ain't it. The approach ain't it. The training ain't it, and it's all just a mess. The way you're going, you've gone from the greatest specimen ever in the sport to just another Hall of Famer. Now I know, AB, he's doing more than you'll ever do. Never disputed that. But equally, I wasn't 6'6" and like AJ. If I was, I'm sorry, that's the truth. The truth is, I'll be getting more out of what AJ had. Whatever I had, I know for a fact I used everything I had. At 5'9", I gave it all when I was in sport. I gave it all hand on my heart. I know what I gave. AJ can't say the same, because I've seen it. He can't say the same. He can't say that he went in there and he's given it his all, and he's pedaled to the metal. He can't say that. I can. I'm not an athletic specimen. That's the difference there. And people like Dillian White can say, yeah, my pedals to the metal, but I'm not working with the greatest specimen in the history of boxing. Unfortunately, you have that, and people have different challenges. Dillian White's challenge is his attributes, as such. I'm not saying he's a bad, but I'm just saying there's levels to this game. That's his challenge. His challenge is to work with the tools he's been given. Your challenge is you've been given all the attributes, but it's no good if that mind and that direction ain't right. And I'm not saying you're weak-minded or whatnot, but you're not optimal. Your training isn't optimal. Your direction isn't optimal. And this is going to be your Achilles heel. You've been given all the gifts, but if you have the ability, you have the possibility to be the greatest of all time. Or will you just be another entry-level Hall of Famer? That's the way you're going right now. At the moment, you'll be, he went the distance with Fury. He went the distance with whoever else. Yeah, he's a standard Hall of Famer. Just any Hall of Fame, but that's the way you're going right now, because a standard win over Fury will be a standard Hall of Fame entry ticket. You go in there and dominate the top 3 like you should be doing. No one going more. No one got. You should be known as the man who no one went the distance with. That should be your moniker. The man who no one could make it to the end of the fight with. Obviously, Parker has. I know Parker did and Ruiz did, but I'm saying from this point, the big names, Wilder, Dillian White, whoever, you should be known as the Slayer. Because in my opinion, that's how good you are. You're good enough for none of these men to make it the distance with you, and the fact you're kind of accepting that, the fact you've got yourself into this mindset and this gear set of, well, kind of just good enough. Yeah. 11 rounds of Pulev and I'm doing my best. That's just shocking to hear. I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing after the Pulev fight when you were saying, I'm just doing my best, and what? You think you and this is the thing I want to say about the mindset. If you I don't know who's around you, yeah, but if the people around you and yourself have worked yourself into a mindset and attitude that 11 rounds with Pulev is the best you can do, that's shocking. I'm sorry, it is shocking. It just is shocking, and that goes for all of you so-called AJ fans as well. All of you man telling me that kind of justifying it, and Yeah, justifying it and explaining it, and it's shocking. You believe the best AJ is 11 rounds with Pulev. That's as bad as it gets for me. The only thing worse would have been 12 rounds, wouldn't it? Innit? And we weren't far from there, by the way. Let's not make out that it was night and day. Could have easily gone 12 rounds. I thought it was at one point. In fact, so did everyone else. So that KO came out of nowhere. And I don't mean a good out of nowhere either. It was just kind of a bit of a shock. It wasn't planned or anything, or weren't. Just a lucky one. Is that the guy you want to be? Do you want to be known as the Hall of Famer who had lucky KOs over Pulev? Oh, well, he had a lucky KO over Pulev. Or do you want to be the Hall of Famer who goes in there and everyone knows means business? I mean, when you look at Lewis, for example, when he fought Rahman in the rematch, he had that snare. When he fought Mike and people like that, he had snare. He wanted to. If you had that, these guys, yeah, it would be truly peak for these guys. But I just don't get that. I just don't get that 1990s-ness about you. I do believe Dillian kind of has it, but he don't have the attribute. That's the thing. He don't have the gifts. He don't have that snap like that. He don't have the ability to be able to really apply it to great effect. Dillian White can have the attitude, and the best he can do is 12 rounds with going life and death with Joseph Parker kind of thing. That's the best he can do, even with the attitude. You, however, at a higher level, you have that Lennox Lewis ability, but better in my opinion. In as much as Lennox, he weren't really banging like that. He weren't really a demon on the inside like that. But that's my opinion. Well, that's what the facts are. The sparring, shocking, and you need to bring the YB in. That's the truth is, you need the YB in, or Shane McGuigan. That's all. That's the only thing that can save you right now. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Honestly, if I had a choice, YB or Shane McGuigan, I'm not going to split the baby here. Yeah, McGuigan. I'd put McGuigan in over myself, but take someone. If you're going to bring in Fernando Alonso anyway, bring me in. Why not? You got bums in there anyway. What's another bum going to hurt? Innit? You ain't going to... One thing we know is, bring the YB in. You ain't going to be no worse. You ain't going to get worse than what you're doing now. So, why not? I told you before, I'll do it for free. Board and lodge, no problem. But something needs to change. Bring the YB in. Or get rid of the all-you team and bring Shane McGuigan in. That's the only two things that are going to help. Everything else is not working. Bringing in Fernando Alonso... Patching things up didn't work. He made it worse, if anything. And the fact you've told us you want to look like Alvarez, the fact you've brought in Fernando Alonso in the first place and two other bums, just shows you know something's wrong with McCrappen. That's a fact. No other trainer brings in other no fighter brings in other trainers when everything's like. How many times have you seen Alvarez bring in new trainers? What for? You know what I'm saying? He performing how he wants to perform. He performing to a high level. And no trainers coming in. So like I said, no fighter brings in new trainers when everything's going to plan. So, you brought new trainers and you know there's something wrong with McCrappen, which is 100% correct. If you love him that much and you feel a bit weird about things, keep him on the payroll. Or just put him in the cupboard somewhere in the training room. But Shane McGuigan must be there. He must. Shane McGuigan, or you need the number 1 or the number 2 trainer now, right now. That's what you need to do. To sort it all out. I mean, listen to your brother, Lawrence Okoli. He said it best. He said, listen, Shane came in and my mind weren't right before. Shane got me all fine-tuned. Shane is like a throwback trainer. He not just superficial physical training. Like I said, listen to what Okoli said. Perfect. Hearing them words come out of a fighter's mouth was amazing to hear, especially when combined with his performance. That's what you need. 100%. You don't need Fernando Alonso, you need Shane McGuigan. Because guess what? Fernando Alonso ain't done nothing. What's he done? Never heard of him. And I wouldn't even mind. It's not about, but YB, no one's ever heard of you. Well, give me a chance like you give Fernando Alonso a chance. because he sucks. How about that? He's proven over 2 years he sucks. And simple as that. Let me suck for 2 years. How about that? Yeah, because I'm not being funny. What qualifications did Fernando Alonso have? Isn't it? It's not a make out. Oh, but YB, he's only bringing in a whole load of high level trainers. He's brought in a bunch of bums who don't have no qualifications either. So I might as well be there. At least you'll have someone in there who backs you, 100%. Because these man don't back you like I back you. Pause. Yeah. They don't. Because if they did, these things, I wouldn't allow these things to be going on. I just wouldn't. It wouldn't be acceptable. Much like some of the throwback trainers have said. When Lennox Lewis, even I think Lewis, Manny Stewart and Klitschko and Manny Stewart, Manny Stewart told his fighters, it's not good enough. Get this guy out of there. We ain't playing these games. You're too good to be in there with this dude right now. And that's what should have been being said in the Pulev fight. And I'm not being funny. Never mind Manny Stewart, but that's what everyone else was saying. Carl Froch, Peter Fury, everyone was saying. This guy, what's AJ doing? This guy ain't good enough to be in there with him right now. Everyone but your own team was saying that. And you can't see it. That should be ringing bells here. It's not just some YouTube idiot like the YB. Everyone who knows a bit about boxing was saying the same thing. What's he doing with this? What's Pulev in the ring for 5 extra rounds? What's going on? Massive red flag. And you want to tell me after the fight that you're just doing your best? What the